Hello, Abby.
Hello.
Okay, my first thing that we're going to talk about is Erikson and his identity versus role diffusion principle. And in class we talked about this, and it's from the age 13 to 20, and the 3 questions that the person tries to answer in their life is who they are, where they're headed, and what they believe in. So at any point you feel like relating that to what we're talking about, that's cool. Okay, my first question is, what does being an adult mean to you?
What does being an adult mean to me? Well, at this stage of my life, I would say that being an adult means being out on my own, because I'm finally done with school, and so I'm going to be in a real job, I'm not a real house yet because of my job, but just being able to be out on my own, not relying on my parents anymore, kind of that aspect of finishing off creating my own identity, because I have the belief that if I'm still getting help from my parents in that way, because they were helping me pay tuition and other bills while I was getting through school, that I'm not fully independent. So in order to be fully independent, I need to be completely out on my own, and that's exactly where I'm headed. So I feel like I'm in the process of finishing off the identity development I started going into when I started in college.
Okay. Did you have a set image of what an adult is when you were a child? And how has this image changed, or has it changed?
I remember when I was a kid looking at my mom and thinking, school is hard and I have to do my homework and there's all this stuff that I have to do. My mom doesn't have to do anything. I mean, she gets to just live. And I remember I really appreciated that. I even told her that once, and she said, oh, well, when you're there, it'll change. And, well, now that I'm here, it has changed. I have bills to pay, and I have other things that I need to be worrying about, my job and the people in my job, because I'm going to be working in a residence hall, so I'm going to be in charge of 300 students. So, while I will finally be done with homework, that does not mean that I'm done having things to do in my life. So yeah, it's changed significantly, because I thought that life was so easy when you were an adult, and in reality it's not really the case.
Okay. Do you think other people, younger or older, see you as an adult? Do you see yourself as an adult?
I do not see myself as an adult. Prime example of that is you asked me to do this interview as an adult, and I was like, I'm not an adult. However, I'm 24 years old, and yes, I am probably an adult. And I will soon have a master's degree, which when I was younger, I mean, that people with master's degrees and people that are my age were really old. So I'm at that point now, and don't feel like I'm that old, but in reality, I know that people looking at me from that age, that is what I seem like.
How do you compare to other people your age? Is your sense of identity stronger or weaker? And do you act your own age?
I would say that I do act my own age, and I would say that my identity is stronger when I'm around people my own age, especially right now. I'm in a program that is geared towards identity development. So I've spent 2 years studying identity development and all the different concepts of that. I mean, we started with people like Erikson, but then we branched out to different racial identity development and any kind of identity development you could think of. And so we have really honed in on some of those things, and so I'm around a group of people that are very educated in that, and so my identity development is very advanced when I'm around them and thinking about myself and all the concepts of me that go into how I portray myself in the world. So I would say my identity is much stronger when I'm around the other students in my program, but it does dictate into how I live my life, and has seriously contributed to who I want to be and what I'm striving for. My goals and morals and things of that nature have been significantly impacted by this master's program that I'm in.
Has your sense of identity changed between adolescence and early adulthood? And if you want, you can tell us some of your personal story of adolescence and how you found your identity.
yes, it has changed significantly. Being in high school, my identity consisted of being cross country and track. I absolutely lived for that. That is what I did. I would wake up in the morning and think about running, and I would go to bed at night thinking about running. And I was interested in little else. And then from that, college is when things really started to change, and I noticed that I was going towards, I was a resident assistant in college, so I was in a position where I was in charge of making sure that people are being fair, and people are being nice, and people are following the rules, and people are having fun in their college experience. But I noticed how I really started to go towards social justice issues in a way where I don't want to listen to people make racial slurs, and I don't want to listen to people say mean things about others for absolutely no good reason at all. And so I really started to be really conscious of stuff like that, and that really has brought me to where I am today and getting into the program that I'm into, because the college student personnel program at Western is very theory-based, and within those theories there's a lot of social justice. And so Theory 2 specifically focuses it on yourself, and that class just flips your world absolutely upside down, because we focused on white privilege, and so I was forced to think about my own white privilege for the first time in my life, and that's just not something, when you don't grow up in that atmosphere, it's just not something you think about. So I'm a completely different person than I was when I went in 2 years ago. So that has been a significant change in a very small amount of time.
Have any specific friendships or relationships influenced your identity?
Absolutely. I have 2 best friends from home, and the 3 of us have been best friends since about 6th grade. So without Melanie and Amanda, I certainly wouldn't be who I am today. I certainly wouldn't have the support that I have today, and that's so important to me and who I am and what I'm doing. And no matter, when I'm going someplace new, when I got into Western, when I went to Monmouth, I'm very conscious about getting my support systems in order early, because I need that support to be able to excel in my new environment. So Amanda and Melanie have always been that support for me, and without them I would not be who I am today, because they have supported me through absolutely everything I've gone through.
Do you think your family has influenced your identity as well?
Yes. I at one point in my life was very close with my mom, and my mom and I were the best of friends. I told her everything, and this was mostly when I was going through high school, and that relationship was really, really important to me. And when they moved, when I went to college, they moved 1,000 miles away, and so that support and relationship was no longer there for me. And so I think they have influenced me much less since I've been in college and in graduate school, and it's to the point now where I don't know if they're 100% sure what it is that I'm doing, because college student personnel, and nobody knows what that is. You always have to explain what that is. And even working in housing, people are going, oh, I didn't know you could do that. And a lot of people, when you're working, I'm going to have a master's degree, so that's fairly high in the degree level, and I'll have parents talking to me like I'm a student, and I'm going to be like, I actually do have some authority here. I've gone through a lot of schooling to be doing what I'm doing right now, and people don't really necessarily understand that. And so I think it's to the point where I don't know how much my parents actually understand that, because that relationship has really fallen off since I've gone to college, and that's partly my fault and partly their fault, but when I was in high school, that was a huge influence on me.
Have you experienced any identity crisis or role diffusion at any point in your adolescence, and how did you deal with it?
In my adolescence, there was a point when I was in high school. My mom and I were always best friends. There was a very small window of time where her and I fought consistently. It was awful. And I was just in the stage where I was making changes and things were different for me, and I was trying to define who I was and who I was with her, and I didn't want a parent necessarily, and so when she was telling me things I couldn't do, I wasn't taking very kindly to that. And so there was, I would say it was less than a year that my mom and I fought constantly. And so that was kind of working on the role part of that. And identity confusion definitely happened last year, around this time, no, last semester, when I was in theory 2 and thinking about my own development and how my own development influences how I'm interacting with students, and how my own white privilege is influencing how I am interacting with students, and how I need to really be conscious of stuff like that. I mean, that was stuff I'd never thought about before, and it was really hard for me to wrap my mind around, and I mean, totally flipped my world upside down. So, yeah, it's been super.
Okay, so after you've gone through your whole master's program and everything, do you know who you are at this point in your life? Is your identity solid?
Yes. I feel like my identity is solid. To a certain point. I don't think your identity is ever solid, because every time you are learning new information or gaining something in life, your identity is going to change a little bit. Because that's just how, I mean, that's normal. As soon as you have something else introduced, it's going to change a little bit. I feel like I'm much more advanced in my thinking and the way I'm interacting with students, and that's really important to me. But it's really important to me that I don't assume that I'm done learning, and never think that I have nothing else to learn, because as soon as I do that, I'm doing an injustice to myself and the people that I'm working with, and that's not okay to me. So I know that I need to continue learning, and I know that I need to continue growing in that way. However, I feel very solid in the path that I'm on, and I know that that path is going to continue in the same way. It's just going to get richer.
Okay. That's it. Thank you.
Yep.